My name is Manuj Jindal and I have secured rank 53 in the recently concluded Civil Service Exam 2016. And today I would like to discuss what was my approach towards this exam, what were my strategies. And one thing I would like to kind of focus is how I approached this exam over the last two and a half years in my 3 attempts. 2014, I got I qualified for the mains and for the interview, but I got very okay type of marks. I did not score very highly, so I could not make it to the final list. So I thought about what deficiencies were there in my approach, and I tried to improve upon that. So 2015, I worked on all these shortcomings, and then I was able to get better marks this year, and I made it to the reserve list, through which I got allotted to the IPTAF service. And even this time, I was not satisfied. I thought that there were definitely some problems in the way I was approaching the GS paper and the essay paper. So I worked on my strategy again. I took advice from teachers, from my friends, from other toppers. I looked at a lot of videos and finally figured out what I thought was an approach and a strategy I could follow. And that is what I followed in 2016. And through that I was able to this time score very good marks in both GS and essay, which was a game changer for me. In GS I scored 449 and essay I scored 158. So both of them are one of the highest marks. So that is what I will discuss today, how my approach from 2014 evolved to 2015 and 2016, and what was the difference in these 3 approaches. So let me start. I will not discuss any materials, any books. That is very standard. You can look at all the other speeches, all the other blogs that I have written. You will find that there. That is not required. That is what you can follow, what most of the candidates are following in the market. The approach really should focus on how to write well, how to approach the questions in a targeted way, how to be succinct, how to be very specific in when you are answering the questions, how to be more effective and have an impactful answer. So for that, I will show you how my approach changed over the years, and I will also discuss my strategy specifically, how I am using 2016. So 2014, what I was doing was, for GS papers, I was for 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 papers, I had the same strategy, that I have to introduce the question में जो भी पूछा है, that I have to do introduction about, I have to discuss points, and discuss, I was providing my own opinion. So for example, there was a question on poverty, has poverty reduced in India? Or there was a question on land reforms. I was providing my own opinion. There was not much use of facts, there was not much use of objective studies by the government or by any other sources that I was using. And then I used to conclude by doing way forward. Way forward दे देता था और conclude कर दिया. I use this for every paper almost, except ethics में थोड़ा सा अलग था. Ethics, again I was thinking that I'm an ethical person, I know how to behave in certain situations, so I will write that only. But that only got me very average marks. I attempted all the questions in my 2014 attempt, but I still got average marks. 2015, what changes did I make? This time, what I did was that I started becoming more objective about my approach. Instead of providing my own view about certain question, I was using now sources that were quoted in various government studies. So let us say there was an exam, there was a question on, we can say poverty. What are the different, analyze the different poverty estimation methods that have been used in the past. So this time I was including more studies about it, Tendulkar and all these different Dalal committee. So there was more kind of objective content I was trying to use. बट आई वाज स्टिल मिसिंग समथिंग. वो वे फॉरवर्ड कर रहा था, लाइक आई वाज सेइंग वे फॉरवर्ड, आई वाज डूइंग conclusion, introduction also same type of introductions I was giving. But this time what really did not work in my favor was the essay. In the essay, I got only 90 marks this year. Very poor marks. And the reason behind this was lack of practice. I wrote barely 3-4 essays. Okay, only just 3-4 essays is not enough. See, lot of time people say that there is a factor of luck in this exam. Yes, there could be a factor of luck. I am not denying that. But there is also a factor of your hard work. There is also a factor of your commitment and your analysis, your this drive to change yourself over a period of time. If I was writing 3-4 essays and if I had done the same here in 2016, then I would have not changed anything about myself. मैंने सब लक पे छोड़ देता तो उसका क्या रिजल्ट आता I cannot predict. Okay, but I tried to change that in this 2016. This time, I really analyzed what were the problems in my writing style that fetched me only 90 marks. So I wrote at least, so 2016, the changes that happened in essay was practice. Okay, so I wrote almost 40 essays in the course of 6 months after 3. I brainstormed a lot of topics, different topics. I brainstormed on how to approach an essay. What is the right way to write a good essay? And that led from 90 marks to 158 marks. Okay, this time I got one of the highest marks in the country just on the basis of practice. Yes, there could be some luck involved. Luck sabka hota hai. But more than that, it was the practice, it was the effort that helped me get more marks. At least kuch to push mila. So you have to come out of this mentality that luck is there and all. This is there for everyone. You know, सबके पास luck होता है, सब कुछ लोगों के पास नहीं होता, कुछ लोगों के पास कुछ भी होता है. That is not the approach. अगर आप एक साल मेहनत कर रहे हो तो अपना मेहनत करो और सब भगवान के हाथ में छोड़ दो. Rest satisfaction जो मिलेगा, that is the most important thing. The satisfaction I got from 158 marks is more than anything else today. So that is one thing. Okay, practice in the essay, and the approach also I will discuss a little bit after GS. Okay, so now let us discuss that what did I do differently in GS in 2016 that worked for me. Okay, so the first one is that treat all the different GS papers differently. GS 1, 2, 3, 4 चारों पेपर्स की अप्रोच बिल्कुल अलग अलग होनी चाहिए. It should be totally different for all the 3. 2 और 3 के लिए थोड़ा सा सिमिलर हो सकता है अप्रोच, बिकॉज दीज आर डायनामिक पेपर्स एंड दे हैव सम सॉर्ट ऑफ ए सिमिलर सिलेबस, नॉट सिमिलर बट टू सम एक्सटेंट देयर इज सिमिलैरिटी इन द वे यू वांट टू अप्रोच. बट GS 1, 2, 3 और 4 ये तीनों चीज़ें बिल्कुल अलग अलग चीज़ें हैं. यू हैव टू अप्रोच दिस डिफरेंटली. वाई? GS 1 एक स्टैटिक पेपर होता है. स्टैटिक मतलब एवरीथिंग इज कमिंग फ्रॉम थियोरेटिकल बुक्स, हिस्ट्री, ज्योग्राफी, सोसाइटी. 3 थिंग्स. रीड द बुक्स properly, जो उसमें पॉइंट्स दे रखे हैं, read about those points. If you are able to quote examples to support your answer from the book only, you can get those. So it's a static paper. They are looking for information. They are looking for less analysis, more information. So here you approach it like that. Okay. Now 2 and 3 are different papers. 2 and 3 they want to see your analytical side along with your information presentation ability. So यहाँ पे मैंने क्या अप्रोच ली? I call it 3D approach. Okay, this is my personal kind of a take, but you can call it anything. The first D is define. The second D is discuss, and the third D is deduce. Okay, so what does this mean? It seems very technical but बहुत simple है. Okay, it's nothing, no mathematical, no astrophysics, very simple. कोई भी आपको क्वेश्चन दिया है, let us say this question is about in polity paper 2, you can pick up the paper. आप पेपर उठाएंगे तो उसमें क्वेश्चन है about article 370 of the Indian Constitution on Jammu and Kashmir. The question is a very long question. वो क्वेश्चन 4 लाइन का है, 5 लाइन का क्वेश्चन है, UPSC as usual is using all this complicated language to confuse you, but UPSC wants you to come to the crux of the question. उस क्वेश्चन में एक पॉइंट है तो UPSC को चाहिए। वो क्वेश्चन, वो लंबा क्वेश्चन बना के व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू आस्क यू इवेंचुअली, उस क्वेश्चन को आप पढ़ोगे तो आपको दिखेगा कि इज आर्टिकल 370 परमानेंट और इज इट टेम्परेरी इन नेचर। दैट इज द ओनली थिंग दैट दे वांट टू आस्क यू कि व्हाट डू यू थिंक, इज इट टेम्परेरी और परमानेंट? अकॉर्डिंग टू एन ऑब्जेक्टिव एनालिसिस यू हैव टू जस्टिफाई दैट, इज इट परमानेंट और टेम्परेरी, यही पूछा है बस। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू बी एबल टू रिकॉग्नाइज दैट कि भाई यूपीएससी इतना लंबा क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया पर वो एक दो पॉइंट ही पूछ लिया, एक क्रक्स है उस क्वेश्चन में जो उसको पूछा जा रहा है, वो क्रक्स आपको पकड़ना है। तो इसमें ये क्रक्स था। मैंने जैसे क्वेश्चन पढ़ा, कीवर्ड्स मैंने ये देखे, मैंने कहा यही है, दिस कम्स विद प्रैक्टिस, लाइक आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट। 2 साल अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस करी, इंप्रूवमेंट करा, तो वो मेरे को दिखने लग गया, आई वाज एबल टू सी एंड रिकॉग्नाइज दैट। ओके, सो हाउ डिड आई डिफाइन दिस? अब लिखने में प्रॉब्लम क्या आती है, वी गेट कंफ्यूज, यार इतना लंबा क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता है, वो हाउ टू स्टार्ट, कहाँ पे स्टार्ट करें, क्या लिखें, क्या एंड करें। एक अप्रोच लो, सीधा डिफाइन डिस्कस रिड्यूस की। पहले डिफाइन करो कि आर्टिकल 370 क्या है, सिंपल। इतना लंबा क्वेश्चन है, उसमें मेन चीज़ यही है ना, तो उसको डिफाइन कर दो, कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं करना। आर्टिकल 370 डील्स विद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पोजिशन ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर इन द पॉलिटी ऑफ इंडिया। वेरी सिंपल, वन लाइनर यू कैन गिव। वहाँ से एग्जामिनर को पता चल जाएगा कि हाँ भी इनको पता है कि क्या हो रहा है, कि स्टूडेंट गेट्स एन आइडिया, स्टूडेंट नोज व्हाट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट। डिफाइन कर दिया, एक लाइन में, 2 लाइन में, मैक्सिमम 3 लाइन्स में डिफाइन कर दो। डेफिनेशन में आप डिफाइन में आप हिस्टोरिकल आइडिया भी दे सकते हो कुछ। जैसे एक क्वेश्चन था GS3 में अबाउट अचीवमेंट्स ऑफ इंडियन स्पेस रिसर्च ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, ISRO के अचीवमेंट्स क्या है, तो उसमें मैंने डिफाइन कैसे करा, उसमें मैंने ऐसे डिफाइन करा GS3 में, उसमें व्हाट आई रोट वाज द अचीवमेंट्स, द India has a rich history of astronomical research which dates back to the ancient times, or when Aryabhatta was doing research in mathematics, and that tradition continues till today. और उसके बाद मैंने इसरो के अचीवमेंट्स बनाने शुरू किए। सो आप डिफाइन करने में थोड़ा सा हिस्टोरिकल फ्लेयर दे सकते हो, थोड़ा सा कॉन्टेक्चुअल फ्लेयर दे सकते हो, बहुत सिंपल रखो उसको। ओके, फिर आपकी योर लाइफ विल बिकम मच इजियर व्हेन यू आंसर द रेस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन। ओके, सो आफ्टर डेफिनेशन आई डिस्कस। डिस्कस का मतलब क्या होता है, प्रोज एंड कॉन्स देने हैं, मतलब दोनों साइड, पॉइंट की दोनों साइड दिखानी है, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी दिखानी है। व्हाट हैपेंस इज वी गेट टू इमोशनली, हम ज़्यादा इन्वेस्ट हो जाते हैं आंसर क्वेश्चन में। हम कश्मीर के ऊपर क्वेश्चन देखा, कुछ भी लिखना शुरू कर दिया। डोंट गेट इमोशनली इन्वेस्टेड इन इट, ट्राई टू बी ऑब्जेक्टिव। दैट इज हाउ अ ब्यूरोक्रेट थिंक्स। इसमें आप कैसे ऑब्जेक्टिव रहोगे? आप प्रोज, मतलब इसमें तो प्रोज नहीं है, इसमें तो सॉरी, इसमें आप डिस्कस करोगे परमानेंट वर्सेस टेम्परेरी, कि ये परमानेंट है या टेम्परेरी है। तो आप परमानेंट फीचर्स डिस्कस करोगे और टेम्परेरी फीचर्स डिस्कस करोगे, राइट? सो दिस इज द डिस्कशन पार्ट, यू आर डिस्कसिंग परमानेंट वर्सेस टेम्परेरी। परमानेंट में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एस्पेक्ट दिखाओगे आप, इसका जुडिशियल एस्पेक्ट दिखाओगे, ethical aspect will you also have to show that why there is there any ethical question when it comes to permanent versus temporary constitutional position of this, and you will also show international aspect कि internationally how this article is affecting India's position in the UN when it comes to JNK. This is how your question answer becomes multi-dimensional. आपने अलग अलग 2-2 लाइन में बिल्कुल सक्सेंटली बता दिया, बहुत ऑब्जेक्टिवली। सी, ये मेरी ओपिनियन नहीं है, ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की ओपिनियन है, जुडिशियल ओपिनियन है, एथिकल ओपिनियन है, इंटरनेशनल ओपिनियन है। इसमें मैंने कुछ अपने मन से बना के नहीं डाला। आई हैव प्रोवाइडेड द रेलेवेंट केसेस हियर और द रेलेवेंट थिंग्स हियर दैट आर रिक्वायर्ड, है ना? तो ऐसे दिस बिकेम वेरी सॉलिड आंसर। टेम्परेरी में मैंने फिर वो फीचर्स दिखाए जो टेम्परेरी इसको जस्टिफाई करते हैं, तो यहाँ पर मैंने डिस्कस कर दिया। आई विल गिव अनदर एग्जाम्पल, दैट इसरो क्वेश्चन। In that ISRO question, how did I discuss it? I provided various dimensions of how ISRO has succeeded. तो उन dimensions में क्या क्या है? Space diplomacy, okay, scientific capital, Okay, environmental achievements, environmental science, sorry, and then in this I have also discussed then, apart from environmental science, then space missions. Okay, poverty reduction. Now you will say, what? How is space related to poverty reduction? It is, ISRO has launched a lot of educational programs that have helped to reach out to the masses in the villages of India. उससे poverty reduction हुआ है क्योंकि education बढ़ी है. Okay, so these multiple dimensions we have to fit. That definition I provided a historical aspect of ISRO, space research in India. Discussion में I provided the multiple dimensions. Space diplomacy में 7 satellite. Scientific capital में we are able to create a base of human resource scientists in the country. Environmental science में climate change हो रहा है, उसमें कैसे contribute कर रहा है ISRO. Space missions में all this lot of data and material is there. So multiple dimensions of the same thing. Deduce. What does deduce mean? Deduce means to come into a logical conclusion about what you have done in the previous discussion. यहाँ पर हमने डिस्कशन कर लिया, उसके बाद हमें एक फाइनलाइज कॉन्सेप्ट, एक एंड करना है उस क्वेश्चन को. We can't continue to write way forward नहीं come. I don't think way forward works. You know, lot of times you will hear way forward लिखना होता है conclusion में. Don't. For me personally, I did not write any way forward. I wrote a deduction. By deduction I mean I wrote something like this. So in article 370 example, I wrote from the above analysis. So this is my conclusion. I did not write deduce. I just wrote this conclusion. After this analysis, from the above analysis, it can be seen that permanent features are more prominent when it comes to article 370 of the Indian Constitution in respect to JNK, and that is why it is a permanent feature of the Indian Constitution. Simple. There is nothing that I have done. I have just closed, I have just finalized कि मैंने शुरू में ये डिस्कस करा है और इसमें ये वाले पॉइंट भारी हैं compared to these points. This has a more weight than this. So I have concluded that. Similarly here also, after discussing these, I have concluded that from the achievements of Indian Space Research Organization in the field of space, it has emerged as one of the leading space agencies in the world. And from this, we can understand that ISRO is a critical component of development story of India. Simple. I am actually giving a conclusion, a closure to these big ideas, to these big points that I am talking about. So that provides a closure to the examiner. That provides an understanding that हाँ भी आपको समझ में आ गया है क्या आप बोल रहे हो. So that is what I have done in GS 2 and 3. Lot of other questions are there. I will put some blog posts about it. You can read them. But this is what I have done. Define, discuss and reduce. Simple strategy. It works for 90% of the questions. In GS 2 and 3. GS 1 में ये अप्रोच नहीं चलेगी. GS 1 में कुछ डिस्कस होता ही नहीं. GS 1 में you define, you give the factual points and then you conclude. Simple होता है वहाँ पर. So that I have talked about. Now GS 4. What to do in GS 4? In GS 4, there are two parts, part 1 and part B. These are case studies. Okay, and this is like your theoretical sort of a paper. So what is the difference? The difference is this. Here they want to understand your conceptual understanding of, they want to see your conceptual understanding of ethics. As a person आप कैसे सोचते हैं, आप articulate कैसे करते हैं. Here they want to see your view as an administrator. See, इससे पहले जब मैंने 2 साल एग्जाम दिए थे, मैं एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर की तरह नहीं सोच रहा था. I was thinking like a student only, as जैसे आप लोग हैं सब, you know, we always thinking the same way. अब भी सोचते रहते हैं. तो I was thinking like this, you know, student, citizen, NGO का worker. नहीं, you have to think like an administrator. This is what I believe. एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर की तरह सोचो. एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर कैसे सोचता है भाई? एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट वगैरह होता है या SDM होता है, he thinks about resources that are available to him. Okay, he thinks about stakeholders in the particular situation. He thinks about government agencies जो involved हैं. इन चीज़ों के बारे में सोचता है, एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर जो होता है ना, ही विल थिंक अबाउट दीज थिंग्स. सो आई ट्राई टू इंक्लूड दीज वी पॉइंट्स. इनके बारे में मैंने अपनी केस स्टडीज़ में काफ़ी इंक्लूजन करा और आई थिंक उससे मेरी केस स्टडीज़ काफ़ी बेटर होगी पहले से. पार्ट ए में तो यहाँ पे प्रैक्टिस इज द बेस्ट अप्रोच. प्रैक्टिस रीड a lot about ethics and try to answer a lot of questions. यहाँ पे you should be able to understand the crux of the question. What is the conceptual philosophy behind the question? अगर वो understand नहीं करोगे तो वो miss हो जाता है पूरा question. उसको understand करने के लिए क्या करना होगा? Practice करना. Read more and more questions. Write more and more answers. Show it to a lot of people. That is a mistake that a lot of us do. हम पूछते नहीं हैं लोगों से. हम सोचते हैं सही है, लक है तो चल हो जाएगा, ठीक जो होगा देखा जाएगा, भर देंगे वो. Don't have that approach. इस बार मेरे कितने सारे इन फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट आई डिड नॉट लीव एनी क्वेश्चंस और फुल अटेम्प्टेड ओके. इन माय दिस अटेम्प्ट आल्सो ऑलमोस्ट फुल अटेम्प्ट. इन दिस अटेम्प्ट आई लेफ्ट एटलीस्ट 40-50 मार्क्स इन ऑल द 4 GS पेपर्स. 40-50 मार्क्स आई लेफ्ट. आई स्टिल गॉट 449 मार्क्स एंड द रीजन फॉर दैट वाज क्वालिटी वाज मच बेटर. जिस क्वेश्चन नहीं पता तो छोड़ दिया पूरा. मैकब्राइड आई डिड नॉट नो, आई लेफ्ट. नो पॉइंट. एलिलोपैथी आई डिड नॉट नो, आई लेफ्ट इट. सम अदर क्वेश्चंस आई डिड नॉट नो, रॉल्स एंड ऑल, आई लेफ्ट इट. बट आई फोकस्ड ऑन प्रोवाइडिंग दिस डिस्कस, डिफाइन, डिस्कस, रिड्यूस एंड प्रोवाइडिंग दिस काइंड ऑफ प्रॉपर मेथोडोलॉजिकल अप्रोच. और इससे मेरा आंसर राइटिंग बहुत इंप्रूव हुआ है कंपेयर टू बिफोर. सो दिस इज हाउ कीप इंप्रूविंग योरसेल्फ. एक चांस में नहीं होता, परसिवरेंस होनी चाहिए. दूसरे चांस में और इंप्रूव करना है, तीसरे चांस में और इंप्रूव करना है. उसको ये मत छोड़ो कि सेम चीज़ नहीं करते रहना, थोड़ा थोड़ा चेंजेस लाना पड़ेगा. तो वो उस पर फोकस करना चाहिए आपको. सो दिस इज माई अप्रोच टू ऑल द 4 डिफरेंट GS पेपर्स. आई होप इट मेक्स सेंस टू यू. फॉर essay also I will quickly give you some understanding of the essay. I got 158. Okay, so how did I approach the essay? In the essay I have written a blog post also, you can see that, but here what matters is that you are able to form your argument and show both the sides of the story. So for example, cyberspace वाला question था, cyberspace वाला essay. I showed both the bane and the boon. How is it a bane and how is it a boon? And I analyzed this. I divided this into different paragraphs and analyzed each aspect. Similarly, boon में I बहुत simple essay लिखा था. जैसे 12th क्लास में या BA का फर्स्ट ईयर का स्टूडेंट लिख रहा है ना, I wrote like that. Simple introduction. I used a thinker, like I think I quoted Bill Gates in my opening paragraph. Introduction. Then I gave a thesis statement that I will be talking about both the how cyberspace has been a boon and a bane for the society. और उसमें मैंने दोनों साइड डिस्कस करे और every idea that I was giving, I was supporting with some sort of example or some sort of a thinker. So I quoted Mark Zuckerberg. I also quoted the Indian president. He talked about innovation and cyberspace. So something like that, all angles of the society, all the angles of the different multidimensionality on it. So that I covered. Similarly, I wrote the other essay I wrote was engendered development. In this also similar approach. I divided my essay into different parts and I discussed each part very clearly. I did not just write something. I wrote it with a purpose. I had practiced so much कि मेरे को आदत पड़ गई थी. 40 essays लिखने के बाद it will be a cakewalk for you. Then it's not a question of filling pages. After writing 40 essays, you will actually be writing content that makes sense, that is relevant to what is being asked. That is what UPSC is looking for. They're not looking for some kind of a creative essay. They're looking for a relevant, structured, clear, defined essay. So that is what I did here. Cyberspace also I did this. So essay में practice. This is the only formula that I can give you from my personal experience. And practice with a purpose. Practice with a purpose. एक purpose होना चाहिए कि you must be writing good essays. कोई भी आपका essay पढ़े तो कहीं हायर अच्छा essay. ये नहीं होना चाहिए एक बार अच्छा लिख दिया फिर go down बेकार हो गया फिर अच्छा हो गया. एक consistency आनी चाहिए. And that consistency was there in my essay test series. I was always improving score. थोड़ा score improve हो रहा था मेरा. My friends started to like my. शुरू में I got very bad reviews in my essay. That what is this? It's not coming to the point. Then eventually I analyzed it, I relooked through it, and then I eventually kind of figured it out. So yes, I am coming back to the same thing. Luck can play a role. I do not deny that. Okay, I've seen it. My friends, a lot of friends are giving civil service also. A lot of you also are giving. But what actually worked for me was that I was perseverant through my approach. I was like यार जब तक अपनी तरफ से पूरी मेहनत करनी है, अपनी तरफ से पूरा एफर्ट मारना है, उसके बाद देखा जाएगा जो भगवान के ऊपर छोड़ दो. So from your side, don't waste your time. Focus. See, UPSC is an object. It tries to be as objective as possible. It tries to be as, they might not have model answers, but they have a model approach. That they will be trying to check the answers in a certain way. Oh, objective. They try to be objective. Human factor is there. I understand. When you write something, human factor comes into play. But they try. So we have to give them a chance. Give them a chance. You know, show your improvement. Show how you have worked hard to write good answers, and that will definitely help you to some extent. So you know, this is my 2 cents. This is how it worked for me. It can work in a very different way for someone else. All the different toppers, जितने toppers हैं ना, 100 लोग हैं अगर top 100 में, तो 100 लोगों का सबका अलग-अलग approach होता है. So choose which one works for you or mix them up. I learned from Ira ma'am, who gave the exam in 2014, I think. I learned from Gaurav Agarwal sir. I learned from Tina Ravi ma'am. So from all these, you combine their approaches and come out with a solid, creative approach for yourself. So that is my final message to you. Hopefully it makes sense. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Happy to answer. That is it.